Go ahead, we're good.
Good afternoon, good evening to each of you. And we want to welcome you to the home ownership orientation tonight. We ask that you would mute your phones and not have your video on. This is recorded. And so any personal information, feel free to send that to us personally if it's personal in nature and not put it in this video as we are recording. Again, my name is Candace Turner. I am the Director of Home Ownership with Maggie Walker Community Land Trust. And I want to take a moment for our staff and colleagues to chime in. So I will start with Elizabeth. Would you care to introduce yourself?
Yes. Hi, everyone. My name is Elizabeth Munyon. I'm the home purchasing coordinator at Maggie Walker. So I really work on the front end of getting folks into houses. I work through transactions and on a bunch of other things with the land trust. And I will pass it to Flora.
Hi, my name is Flora Valdez de Pena. I am the communications coordinator for the Maggie Walker CLT. So I handle all of our events, such as homeownership orientations, as well as our website, social media accounts, email lists, and things like that. Nice to see you all here.
Leah. I am Maggie Walker's AmeriCorps service member. I am usually your first point of contact when you go to fill out an application. So I'm really excited to hear your hopes and dreams of homeownership.
Thank you. And I believe we have some partners on the call as well. Our realtor, Jen Cox, would you care to introduce yourself?
Yes. I'm trying to get on. Okay. Good evening, everyone. I am Jen Cox. I'm the realtor with Maggie Walker. I work as the listing agent. I also work with buyers and buyer agents and also serves as a point of contact to help navigate through the real estate transactional process.
And then I believe we have a few lenders that work with our program on the call.
Hi, this is Mary White. I am with Town Bank Mortgage, and I have been working with Maggie Walker Land Trust since they first were created, and I believe in the program, and these guys are wonderful to work with.
Any other lenders?
Yeah, hey, my name is Jordan Matthews, and I'm with Virginia Credit Union, and I'm excited to be part of y'all's journey as you're starting this process, and happy to be here to help and answer any questions for you.
Thank you, Mary and Jordan. Thank you, everyone. And so we will honor your time and get through this tonight. And so we'll get started. So we want to give you some resources, just a couple, to get you started on your journey. And this is if you're ready right now, or even if you're not ready right now. Catholic Charities has credit counseling, and they have someone that can work with you on budgeting, looking at your income, your debt to income ratio, and doing an analysis to help you fulfill your dream, basically, and let you know how far or close you are to that coming to fruition. Also, we have the housing resource line. That hotline and phone number is there, or website, I should say, and phone number is there for your consideration. That line has other, I should say, organizations that may be helpful in your housing search. Next slide, please. Okay, so what we will cover tonight succinctly is just the model of CLT. We'll talk about that, what the eligibility requirements are, what are the benefits to home ownership through a CLT. We'll talk about the nuances that make a CLT unique, which primarily is the ground lease. And then we'll talk a little bit more about how to apply for home ownership through the CLT. So let's talk a little bit more about who's here. We did introduce you guys to not only the staff, but the lenders on the call. Can we, and you can use the chat, but we're also curious about why you guys are interested in home ownership and what brought you to the class tonight. Feel free to use the chat for that. And we do have a survey, thank you, Flora, that speaks to that. Let me take a second or two to complete that. Find out who's in the room. How are we with the responses, Laura? All right, thank you. Most on the call tonight are interested in purchasing a home. We have some real estate agents, some interested community members, and then people that are here for other reasons. Let's see, I think I saw something in the chat pop up. Thank you for sharing. Rental property. We don't have any rental property, Bridget, FYI. Alba Matos, to purchase, okay. First time home buyer, welcome. We're glad to have you all here trying to buy your first home. Awesome, awesome. Okay, next slide, Elizabeth. So let's talk a little bit about what excites you about home ownership. What brings you joy? What is it that the idea of home ownership gets you excited and motivates you to purchase or to move forward in your journey? And again, feel free to use the chat or come off mute. What excites you about home ownership? Privacy. I hear that. Opportunity to build wealth. Thank you. It's yours. Thank you, Hope. Something to call my own. Absolutely, absolutely. And you guys can keep that going. And what we also recognize and acknowledge is that quite similarly, homeownership can make you nervous or afraid. So what about it makes you nervous or afraid? What about it makes you nervous or afraid? Tired of renting, okay. Upkeep. Thank you, Valerie. And if I pronounce anyone's name incorrectly, please say something. I want to call you by the name that whoever named you. So correct me if I'm wrong. We have upkeep of the property, not having the capital for repairs. The unanticipated repairs, the process, okay, and maintenance and repairs. A lot of people concerned about repairs tonight. Thank you all for sharing. So let's talk a little bit more about our namesake. We dare not have this discussion without talking about who our organization is legacied after. Maggie Walker, who was born in 1903, right here in Richmond. If you're from Richmond or not, her home is a historical site on Lee Street. Check it out when you get a chance. But she was the first Black woman to president and preside over a bank, which was initially called the Penny Savings Bank. Later, it was called Consolidated Bank and Trust. And several of the locations, or the buildings, I should say, still remain here in Richmond. But basically, Miss Walker, Elder Walker, thought it prudent to not only provide opportunities for entrepreneurship and stability, but she thought it noteworthy to make sure that there was always a seat at the table for anyone. And so we do our work in her name and in her honor. Next slide, please. Okay, so let's talk a little bit more about why we're here exactly what is a community land trust. And if you don't mind, put in the chat how you even found out about this and about community land trust, if you know anything about community land trust. And there's no shame in not knowing, because a lot of people don't know about community land trust. Next slide, Elizabeth, please. But we'll talk a little bit more about the history. Thank you for sharing, Jenlicia. I hope I pronounced your name correctly. If I didn't, correct me. You didn't know anything about it, so you're in the right place, and I'm sure you're in good company. Okay, a flyer at VSU Credit Union. Thank you. So basically, CLT started in 1969 in Georgia. The first community land trust was called, or is called, New Communities Incorporated. And it was created so that Black farmers could keep their land. They were found to be kicked off the land if they were registered voters. And so they got together and created an entity that allowed them to keep the land, okay? Community land trusts are not just here in Richmond, but they're national. In fact, they're international. Can everyone else hear me? Can I get a thumbs up from someone? Okay, thank you. And so it's actually international, and there are 5 land trusts here in the state of Virginia. But right here in Richmond and surrounding areas, we are Maggie Walker Community Land Trust. Next slide, please. So let's talk a little bit more about what the organization is all about. And this isn't exclusive. There are other things that we do as well, but our primary focus is on permanently affordable home ownership. MWCLT is a nonprofit organization, and we steward land. And we'll talk a little bit more about what that actually means. But the premise is that we provide opportunities for homeowners from the time of purchase, but for the duration of the time that that home is on that land. Next slide. Okay, so 2 key factors in understanding not just the process, but how the process and the program provides permanently affordable opportunities. So someone that is income qualified will go through that process a little bit later in the presentation, but that person purchases a home through the land trust. They purchase actually what we call the improvements, or the house in and of itself, and they lease the land underneath the house. And that there's a price for that monthly. Okay, we'll get into that. And then if that person chooses to sell, you don't have to sell, right? You can stay in the house as long as you want to. But if that person chooses to sell their house, they earn equity based on area median income, and then they will sell that home to another income qualified buyer. What that essentially means is that the program is pulling someone into home ownership, and then that person, if they choose to sell, is then turning and pulling someone else into home ownership. So it's an act of reciprocity, basically. Next slide, please. Okay, so some of our values, right? We're definitely centered on racial equity. Why is that? That is because there is a gap in home ownership amongst people of color and non-people of color. Also, wealth generation. And when we talk about wealth generation, and we'll get a little bit more into that breakdown of when you sell, because your equity will be capped. But there are other ways that we also look at how families can generate wealth as well. And then community-driven work. You're not just purchasing a home or a house. The hope is that you're purchasing a house, you're turning it into a home, and you're also becoming a part of community. So our hope is to build community through home ownership in the CLT. We do work to promote the stewardship of the land, finances, and homes. And I use all 3 of those because it's going to take all 3 of those things to create stability, but also to create community as well, which is our goal. Next slide, please. So let's talk about some of the benefits of home ownership through a CLT. So it's over time, right? It's affordable. You're going to build wealth over time. And you'll see that there is, we put subsidy into the homes to bring the price of the homes down. So you're definitely have an opportunity to purchase a home that's more affordable. Not only that, our homes are either newly built or renovated, and fully renovated, meaning that the home is stripped to the studs. Okay, so you're purchasing a home that you can just move right into. Next slide, please. And I'll let you start from here, Elizabeth, if you don't mind.
Yeah, I hope everyone can hear me. I'm having a leaf blower situation outside of my window, so let me know if you cannot hear. So the CLT model, this allows us to keep our neighborhoods diverse and vibrant, even as housing prices in the Richmond region continue to rise. I'm sure a lot of you know how rents have just gotten so extreme here. The whole housing market is going crazy, but this program, this model allows homes to continue to be affordable, not just for you, but for future buyers. And this model can combat Black land loss and displacement, build community wealth, and strengthen community health and well-being, and be used as a tool to reduce speculation and gentrification. So here are our eligibility requirements. I'll go over our income qualifications in the next slide in more detail, but we do have a certain income limit that you must be under for our program. You must agree to the terms of the ground lease, and I'll go into that in detail as well. You must be approved for a pre-qualification letter from one of our approved lenders for a minimum of $150,000, and you cannot own another home at the time of closing. So here is a detailed chart of our income limits. And so this is based on the number of people who will be living in your home when you purchase. So as you can see, there's 2 income limits, and this is dependent on the locality and funding sources that go into each house. So in general, most of our properties are in the 80% program, meaning that you cannot make over 80% of our AMI. However, we do from time to time have homes that go up to 115% AMI. So for example, let's say that you have a household of 2 people, like you and a dependent. It doesn't matter if they're dependent or a co-applicant, but you and that individual can't make more than $68,250 to qualify for that home and for our program. So here is a simple map of where we currently operate. So the Maggie Walker Community Land Trust is in Richmond, Chesterfield County, and Henrico. So we are, as you can see in this map, mostly centered around Richmond, but we do have a number of homes in Henrico, Eastern Henrico, Highland Springs area, Chesterfield, as well as our subdivision in Ettrick Landing that is under construction currently. And that will be our first CLT subdivision with 10 homes. And I'm going to pause here and allow for questions. But first, if Jen is on the line, I'll have Jen pop on and tell us about this home.
Thank you, Elizabeth. This is our first and only home right now in the Carytown neighborhood. This home features 2 bedrooms, 2 baths, and it's about 800 square feet. Newly constructed, hardwood flooring throughout, stainless steel appliances. This home was built in partnership with Project Homes and was also in partnership with Richmond Redevelopment Housing Authority. We sold this property for $168,000, and I work in partnership with Mary White from Town Bank. Mary, if you're on the call, do you mind sharing what this home appraised for?
I don't have the exact amount, but I want to say this home appraised for the upper 200,000s. I'm sure today it would go for even more in terms of value in that area.
Great, thank you.
Thank you
And
both.
sorry, really quick, I'm just gonna butt in. I'm gonna launch a survey that y'all can take while we're talking about some questions. That's just about what kind of places you guys want to live and how big your households would be. So you can feel free to answer those questions at your leisure.
Thank you, Flora. So AMI stands for the area median income. So that number is determined by HUD, which is the Federal Housing and Urban Development Department. So every year they collect data on what the average income in the Richmond metro area is. And based on those numbers, we determine a lot about our ground lease and our resale formula, which I'll get into in a second. Yes, so we're going to go in depth into the ground lease. Basically, it is a legal document that allows our program, it's the meat and bones of our program that allows your home to remain affordable in perpetuity because of the resale formula that we use. It also has certain stipulations about what is and is not permitted as a part of our program. If anyone would like to come off mute and ask a question, you can do that as well, or put it in the chat.
Pretty important question, Elizabeth, in the chat. Mumbi asked, can you revisit the point regarding capping the equity if one decides to sell and the logic behind this if families are attempting to build wealth?
Yes, so we're going to go into that in detail in a later section, but I'll try and answer it kind of broadly, which is that the program is intended to balance the needs of the individual with the community. And it's not going to have you build equity through the market how you would in traditional home ownership, but instead you will build equity through the increase in the area median income over the time that you are in your house. And so you also will earn equity through your monthly mortgage principal payments and through any down payment that you put on the house. And we'll look through some numbers as we go through this, but it is a complicated question that we as staff do get into a bit, is this idea of wealth building and how it operates within this structure. I'm not sure if any of my colleagues would like to help me answer that.
Sure, I can speak to that.
Okay.
So basically, and your question is a good question. But as I mentioned, the setup of the program is to be able to pull someone else in, which is why it's one of the ways, and specifically as it relates to the land, that we keep the homes affordable. You do get back any down payment that you put down, and as Elizabeth mentioned, we'll get into this a little bit more later, but your down payment as well as principal, and that shift in the equity as well. The other piece of it is just to be quite honest and frank with each of you. If you're looking at real estate, specifically purchasing a home through the CLT as I don't know how else to say it, but as I'm going to walk away with thousands of dollars, and you will walk away with thousands. But if the idea is like Ed McMahon is going to knock on the door with a publisher's clearing check for $50,000 or, a large amount of money, this isn't the program for that. And part of that is because, again, the program is set up to bring people into home ownership. One of the ways in which we are addressing looking at other ways of creating wealth building is having other, like an education series that speaks to other routes to creating generational wealth. But as it stands in terms of the model of a CLT, it is not created in such a way that, you know, someone will walk away from a home if they sell with $100,000. And as Elizabeth mentioned, it is something that some people find problematic about the program, which we completely understand. But this isn't the solution, it is a solution. And I think even in terms of other opportunities that we're hopeful to bring to community members about creating other avenues and channels for increasing income is something that we're kind of leaning into as well. I hope that answers your question. And so I guess we could move forward, and then I'll continue to answer questions in the chat, and any questions that come up. Awesome, thank you. Any other questions that come up, we will continue to answer those during the next Q&A section.
Thank you. I'll talk a bit more now about how our program works. So we are a nonprofit organization that is run by a board. We are comprised of 1/3 community members, 1/3 homeowners, and 1/3 public members. And so we really value the homeowner input on our board. And if you're interested in serving on a board or one of the committees that advises the board in our decision making, we would love to have you. So here we're going to go into some more details about the ground lease. So as I said before, this is the document that really shapes how our program works and how we operate. So it's a legal document that restricts the price that the home can be resold, and it ensures that the home will remain affordable for at least 99 years. And so this 99-year period, that is intended to go beyond your life and that of your children. That being said, your home will be fully inheritable. It can be passed down to anyone via your will by state law. And we also offer a will and life planning documents program for all of our homeowners at closing free of charge. So you have an opportunity to take advantage of a service that really helps you think about long-term planning. And part of that is because our program focuses on the longevity of this document and what happens after your life and possibly that of your children, that this house will remain affordable for 99 years. So if your heir chooses to live in the home as their full-time residence, they have the option to start a new ground lease, which would start over that 99 years, or they can continue it where it is now. And if they do not want to live in your house, it can be sold and get the same proceeds that you would have had before passing away. And so once a year, there is a $100 fee that you are responsible for. And this is a part of your ground lease fee. It is not intended to be expensive, but rather to tie you to the land and to ensure that you are residing on the property and complying with the terms set forth in the ground lease. So what is unique about CLT home ownership? This is very important. This must be your primary residence. Because our program is focused on not only home ownership for yourself, but other people in your community. If you decide that you no longer want to live in your home, you will need to sell it so that it is an opportunity for another family to own their own home. So you cannot turn it into an investment property. You cannot rent it out and not reside there. There are some exceptions to this rule. such as a family situation, military deployment, something like that. In that case, you would need to get board approval for being out of your home for an extended period of time, but by and large, you must be residing there full time. So next, renovations must be approved. So when I mean renovations, I mean major changes that would require a building permit from a local jurisdiction. So you can do things like paint, change the hardware, change the lights, hang a TV, install shelving, but you cannot take down walls or do any major rehabs. And the reason that this is required is because we want to make sure that anything done to this home is done well and will be safe and serve the interests of future buyers. And we also want to make sure we are always thinking about the next buyer. So something that serves you may not serve the next buyer. So we want to be aware that everything is done to a good standard and serves everyone's interests. And then you do build equity, and we're going to go over this in detail, but you build equity from your down payment, your monthly mortgage payment, and then your home's increase in value. And the increase in value is again based on the wages over time. It is not based on the market like it is in the conventional housing market. So we'll go over that in a bit. Let's see, is this a good time for questions? I see my chat lighting up, but I can keep going.
Keep on going. We have it.
Okay, awesome. Thank you guys. So how does home ownership CLT home ownership compared to renting? So as you know, when you are renting, you do not keep any of your rent payment when you move into another place. So if we're looking at this chart over here, this is an example of the average rent for, I think, a 1-bedroom right now in Richmond, $1,200, a lot of money. We multiply this by 24 months and then by the number of years that you're in your home. So the purpose of this example, if you are renting for 5 years, paying that $1,200, that's $72,000 in rent alone that you do not get back. However, with home ownership, you keep all of the equity that you earn by paying the loan principal with your monthly mortgage payments. So for the purpose of this example, we're going to show how your monthly mortgage payment works. So within that $1,200 monthly payment, not all of that is going back to you. At the beginning of the time of your loan, the majority of that money is going into interest. And this is a concept that is true for any loan, not just for the Maggie Walker program, but the majority is going into interest. And then by year 15, that number starts to even out. So by about year 15 on a 30-year mortgage, you're paying about $700 in interest, $460 in principal. And then by year 25, the majority of that monthly payment is going into principal and less into interest. And in addition to your loan payment, there is a component of your monthly payment called your escrow. And your escrow is a sum of money that includes your taxes and insurance. So those payments are both due every 6 months and can be a pretty hefty sum. So instead of paying those at once in big sums, it's divided so that you can manage it by paying it monthly. So the bank, your lender, will pay the city or locality and as well as the insurance company. So that number, your loan payment will not change over the course of your mortgage loan, but your insurance and taxes can fluctuate. However, they will not fluctuate as much as renting does year by year. And one of the other really cool things about Maggie Walker program is that we are the land bank for Richmond, Chesterfield, and Henrico County. And we therefore are tax exempt on the land. So there's also state legislation that says that CLT homeowners cannot be taxed on the full market value of their home. They can only be taxed on what they can sell the home for according to the ground lease. And then also are land exempt. So therefore, this is another feature for affordability that our program is that it provides. And also let's see, I'll go into some things about maintenance. So we get this question a lot because as a Maggie Walker homeowner, you are not technically the landowner. However, you are responsible of the upkeep of your land. So that includes mowing the grass, taking care of any dead trees, anything like that. And then you are also responsible for any upkeep of your home and routine maintenance on things that are out of warranty. So if there is a leaky roof, broken appliance, broken window, etc., that is the responsibility of the homeowner. I am going to use this time for some questions, and if Jen is available to tell us about this beautiful home in Blackwell.
Yes, I am. Thank you, Elizabeth. As you mentioned, this beautiful home, beautiful, spacious home is newly built. It features 3 bedrooms, 2 baths, 2.5 baths. As you can see from the photos, the Community Land Trust delivers a quality home. All of our homes have hardwood flooring throughout, along with stainless steel appliances, and many, if not all of our properties also include washers and dryers as well. This home was built in partnership with the Richmond Land Bank and Richmond Land Bank, and this house was actually featured to households earning 80% of the annual median income, which I know you've heard that a lot throughout this presentation. This was also done in partnership with, I believe, Mary White from Town Bank assisted me with the sale of this property. Mary, do you remember how much this appraisal came back on this property? If you're
Is
on the
this
call.
one of the 2 that we've got for sale now?
No, we don't have those on the
No.
slide yet.
Okay.
No, Mary didn't do this one.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is our Albany. Okay, this was the our partnership with CNF, Marlon White. I apologize.
Yeah,
Mary,
that's okay.
yes. Well, I do believe that this one did appraise for the mid 300,000, about $330,000, and we were able to sell it for $180,000.
Thank you, Jen.
You are welcome.
And I will answer a few questions that are in the chat. Give me a second to scroll up. Okay, Shaquina, I hope I'm pronouncing your name correctly. Correct me if I'm wrong. What if you're pre-qualified already? How many bedrooms does the program offer for families? So in terms of pre-qualification, and we'll go over this a little bit later in the presentation, but you're also free to go to our website to look at the lenders that are on our lender list. And as I mentioned, we have Jordan from Virginia Credit Union and Mary from Town Bank on the call tonight. They are approved lenders. And I have to say it that way because getting a mortgage product for CLT, you have to go through a particular program with Virginia Housing in order to do so. And most lending branches, most that you're probably more familiar with, do not have a product that lends to a CLT. So I implore you to go to that website or, take a screenshot, if you will, when we get to that page, that shows the lenders that are pre-approved, or I'm sorry, lenders that we've worked with, right? That know how to work that type of transaction. That's going to be pivotal in going through with the process if you choose to purchase through us. In terms of how many bedrooms does the program offer for families, this program is not based on family size. I know that there are some out there that are based on family size. This is not. So if you are a family of one and your desire is a 3-bedroom home, we won't stop you from applying or getting the home. If you are a family of 2 or 3 and you want to purchase a 2-bedroom or a 3-bedroom home, we will not stop you from applying. Okay. So we don't have any restrictions on family size. Okay. And Flora answered your question. This Mumby, I'm hopeful. Homeowner moves into a new home. Is there an existing warranty? Yes, that warranty is for a year on all the appliances convey, and they're all new. Okay. Thank you for answering that, Flora. Do they accept vouchers? So right now, RHA is working to create and implement a program that will allow vouchers to be utilized for home ownership. We don't have the details about that. They're just starting to put that together, so I can't really speak to that. But that program is geared towards using vouchers, which would, well, I can't say that. I know vouchers currently as they stand, if you're a renter, the voucher covers 70%, you pay 30%, but I can't speak to how that will look like for home ownership. We would be more than happy to work with the program once it is in play. At the same time, that is something that lenders would have to approve as well. And so there's a lot of education that is going to be needed in every aspect of this, because this is something that not only the MWCLT, but lenders as well as the city of Richmond and surrounding areas and vicinity, this is something we've never done before. It's been done across the country, but the first time we are even starting to have those conversations here. So I can't tell you what that's going to look like quite yet, because I'm not aware. In reference to the homeowner responsibilities that you mentioned, homeowners are not responsible for the land. So if the sewer water line has an issue, that is not the responsibility of the homeowner. That's a borderline response for that. It's a borderline response because there is a certain portion of the land that the city is responsible for. Okay. Outside of that, your sewer and water are supplying the home, so you would be responsible for that. But it's interesting that you would raise that, because we have had a homeowner in a partnership that we've had that had some issues, but that was rectified with the city.
Yeah,
I think
most of the time there'll be a locality responsibility.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, but to be clear, we said that despite, so you'll lease the land from us, but you will still be responsible for the land in other respects in terms of like mowing the grass and everything like that. So you are responsible for the land in most cases.
The daily use, basically, as Flora mentioned. So you're living there, it is your responsibility. And thank you for mentioning that, Flora, because if you don't cut the grass, you will get a citation. Not from us, from the city.
It's happened to me before.
Same,
I have never even owned a house, and it's happened to me before. They are nasty about the grass height, man.
Right. For real. And so, yes, that is your responsibility. Now, I think someone mentioned, can you garden? Can you plant? You absolutely can. Plant, garden, do what you like with the property in that regard. You can also put a shed on the property that has to be on skids, which means not a foundation. You're not pouring a foundation cement, right? There's a certain size with the shed if you were to add that. So let's move on. I'll leave that to you, Elizabeth.
Okay, so what happens when you go to sell your Maggie Walker home? So this is where you want to pay attention. This is where we go through the resale formula and how our program is different from the conventional market. So when you go to sell your home, you are entitled to get back your cash equity. So that is any down payment that you contributed to your house, your earned equity, and that's the loan principal that you pay off by making those monthly mortgage payments. And then you also are entitled to get back your home's increase in value. And this is where it's a bit different because this increase in value is based on the percentage increase of that area median income over the time that you've been in your home. It is not based on the market forces. So this is a example of a resale that occurred with one of our CLT homes. So this home here is in the Randolph neighborhood in Richmond. This home was appraised at $261,200, but through our program subsidies, we sold this home to the homeowner for $180,000. And because that price of purchase was a lot lower than the appraised value, this borrower borrowed less money from the bank. They had lower monthly payments, and they also had a lower down payment to contribute than they would have if they had purchased on the market for that $261,200. So that's just some more context of how that works. But then when you go to sell your house, we will look at the area median income when you first purchased. So this example, the AMI was $83,200. And then when this home went to sell, the AMI increased to $90,200. And so on average, we can estimate about 2% increase in the AMI per year in Richmond. However, this has tended to be a little bit higher in the past 4 years with COVID and market changes. So therefore, that AMI percentage is capped at 3% per year. So let's say that the AMI increases by 8.41%. We can't actually use that number. We have it capped at 3%. So this equity that you earn, we look at the increase in value by the percentage, and then add that with the original down payment and any principal payments based on your mortgage. And so if it happens that the AMI decreases throughout the time that you've lived in your home, you're still able to purchase your home or sell your home for what you purchased it for. So in this example, after living in this home for 5 years, they had an $16,225 of earned equity from their down payment and principal, and then also $14,580 based on the increase in the AMI for the time that they were in their home. And so this gives us a total of $30,805 in earned equity. And my lovely colleague made this chart for us that shows how over the same time of being in the home, if they had rented, that would have been $72,500 in rent that they do not get back, but instead they have accrued $30,805. So this model, as we kind of get back to that first question about equity, and and wealth building. This model does, even though you're not making as much money as you would in the market conditions, this program makes it possible to step into home ownership, and then also for the home to be affordable for future families who may be in the same economic situation that you are in right now. And the way that it is sold to future buyers is that we take that original sales price of $180,000, and then we add on the $14,580, and that number comes from the increase in value based on wages. And then so if we add those together, we get $194,580. And so that price is the new price that another income qualified buyer will purchase the home for. And if we go back to this slide, we know that that home appraised 5 years before at about $260,000. So it's significantly more affordable because of that ground lease that restricts the sales price. So this future resale of the home is set so another family in a similar financial situation will be able to purchase the home in the future. I know that was a lot. So if there's any questions about the resale formula, please feel free to ask in the chat or come off mute. Or if you have any questions up to this point, we're going to save questions about the application process to the next section. But any questions that we've touched on at this point, please feel free to ask. And then I'm going to pass it over to Jen to tell us about this home in Church Hill.
Great. Thank you, Elizabeth. As Elizabeth mentioned, this is one of our properties in Church Hill. And this home features 2 bedrooms, 2 baths. And again, from the photos, as you can see, we have stainless steel floors throughout, upgraded light fixtures. There's some recessed lighting, upgraded ceiling fan, and also an open kitchen that has an island that sits right in the middle, which makes it easier, to move around. As I mentioned on the previous property, the CLT delivers quality homes. We try to keep in mind, open floor plans, for family gatherings, space, just kind of make it easy and functional properties. This home was sold for $205,000. It was built in partnership with the Richmond Land Bank. And I do believe that our lending partner was Fulton Bank on this property. Is there a representative for Fulton on the line with us today? Okay. All right. If not, I'm going to pass it back over to the homeownership team.
Thank you. Let's see. There's a question about relocating from Virginia from another state and using the profits to have a down payment. So there's nothing in our requirements that restricts that. So the only caveat is that you cannot own a home currently at closing. So we do not have restrictions on owning another home up until you are in your home. So that is how that currently stands. MWCLT does not do credit checks. We a lot of our partners do. If you are working with one of our partner orgs for down payment assistance, credit counseling, they will check your credit, and then your lender will also do a credit check, but we do not do that on our end. Let's see, and then we do not have any 5-bedroom homes. I don't think we have any 4-bedroom homes at this point. That is something that we are working on currently in our new plans for our upcoming homes, but we do not have any plans for a 5-bedroom home at this point. But thank you for letting us know.
Elizabeth, can I ask a clarifying question?
Yeah.
I'm still confused. So Mumbi asked if they could sell their current home and then use the profits to place a down payment on one of our homes, would they be allowed to move into one of our homes and then sell their current home?
No.
Like,
So you cannot own a home at the time of closing.
even if you are about to sell it?
Correct.
Okay.
So like certain situations, I can expand on that a bit. So like we've had people in the past, let's say you're on a deed with a former spouse, you're going through a divorce, and that would require you to sell the home. Your situation is changing, and maybe you'll earn some income from that, and then use that money to purchase one of our homes, or a inheritance, something like that. But our program is really not intended. We are not a first-time home buyer program specifically. However, we are geared towards, and we don't have a requirement for being a first-time home buyer. However, 90% of our buyers are first-time buyers, and a majority of our partners, if you are to receive down payment assistance or certain grant funding to help with your home ownership journey, they do require that you be a first-time home buyer, which also means not owning a home in 3 years. A little confusing. But our program, the only restriction is that you cannot own a home at closing. Yeah, and if you have a specific situation, please reach out to staff or one of our lenders, and we can help you answer that. Okay, I know Leah is not feeling well.
I got it.
Are you sure?
Mhm.
Candace is gonna go into the application process.
So everyone, we'll talk a little bit more about the application, what the next steps are. Thank you, Elizabeth. What the next steps are, and if you're interested, how you move forward in the program. Next slide. Thank you. So I know this is small, but we'll go over a little bit more what the steps are. So you guys have already taken the first step, which is to attend and complete this info session. And it's a really big part of the process because we want you to know what you're signing up for, what it is and what it isn't, okay? You'll also, after this, speak to one of the lenders from our approved lenders list, and start the process of getting your pre-qualification letter, okay? You'll get that letter, you will attend, and we're listing all of this, but some of this may happen out of sequence, and we acknowledge that. So for instance, some of you may have already gone to a certified class through Home or Virginia Housing or Southside Development Center, but you'll complete that class and upload this will be included in your application, upload a copy of your certificate that you've completed that process, okay? And then from that point on, once you've been approved, we have your letter, we have your full application, and I do mean full, okay? We have your full application. Then you go into our applicant pool. And I'm using that word specifically and not using waiting list. And here's why. Because we don't have a waiting list, right? We don't operate by like the Hunger Games, first come, first serve. We don't operate that way. We'll talk a little bit more about a buyer prioritization policy. But basically, you'll enter an applicant pool. And from that point, you will start receiving emails from us when homes become available. And then you would let us know, hey, I'm interested in a home at 123 Alphabet Street. And we'll start the process from there, okay? And that starts the journey into home ownership with us. Next slide, please. Okay, so here are the lenders that we work with. And again, Mary from Town Bank is on the line, as well as Jordan from the Virginia Credit Union, but we also have CNF and Fulton. All of the banking institutions' contact information is on our website. So check that out when you get a chance. And I want to stress again, our relationships with our lenders are very important. Number one, because you're coming into an agreement with them ultimately, with your lender. We're partnering with you in that, but ultimately when you sign your mortgage, you're signing with the bank, okay? So it's very important that you date before you marry. So ask all the questions, clarifying questions before you move forward with anybody that you select, okay? Next slide, please. So let's look a little bit more at the specific details about the application. So again, you've done this info session. You would apply for your pre-qual letter. And then we're asking that you, and we mentioned this earlier, but that pre-qual is at least 150. And the reason for that is 150,000. The reason for that is you may apply for grants and other down payment assistance programs that may bridge you over. Like, let's say the house is 180 or 165 or however much it is. That's one of the reasons that we want you to want to make sure that you're going to those courses, because no one should turn down free money, okay? We've also listed some of the things that are also needed: your tax returns, 3 months of bank statements. And of course, that certificate from your HUD approved class. Now, here's the thing. It sounds like we're asking for your firstborn child. We don't want your firstborn child, right? But everything that we're asking you, the lenders are going to ask you for the same thing. The organizations that provide down payment assistance are going to ask you for the same thing. So even if you're not ready right now, what is it, 707 at whatever today's date is, March 12th, start pulling those documents together, okay? Because everyone is going to ask you for it. So once you've done that, you've sent in your completed packet, if you will, and Leah will process that, make sure that you income qualify on our end, and she'll send you an email to say, hey, congratulations, you're in the applicant pool, okay? Next slide. Okay, so we've already mentioned some of this. You'll contact the lenders and we'll review your application. One of the other things that I want to discuss is if you are not technically inclined and you want a paper copy, we can send that out to you, or you can download that on the website, mail it back to us, or drop it off at our office. You can feel free to do that. If you need assistance in completing that application for a myriad of reasons, please just reach out to Leah. Our contact information will be at the end of this presentation as well. And please make sure that your lines are muted.
Can I just chime in really quick?
Sure.
Yeah, I just want to say I will also mail you the application if need be, so that we can also make arrangements for that as well.
Thank you, Leah. The other thing I'll mention here, and you can go to the next slide, Elizabeth. The other thing that I'll mention here is if you are searching online, you're at some of the online realtor or looking for a home websites, 9 times out of 10, you will not see our properties there. And the reason for that is that when our properties become available, we send that email out to the applicant pool first. Those that have completed applications will be notified first of any houses that become available or homes that become available. Typically, persons that are in our applicant pool are very interested. And so those homes never make it to the MLS, which is the online server, right, for homes that are for sale. The one time, at least in my tenure, that we've had that to happen was in partnership with another developer that we worked with. But outside of that, and the only reason that went to MLS is because people in our applicant pool were looking for larger homes or homes with more than 2 bedrooms. So that went to the MLS. But outside of that, those homes go into the applicant pool. So we send those emails out. So even if you're not interested right now, or you're curious about it, put in the applications just so you can go ahead and get in that applicant pool as well. Okay, so funding and grant opportunities. We spoke about this a little bit earlier, but there's HOME, which stands for Housing Opportunities Made Equal, Southside Community Development Center. There's also a program, VITA. I always get it mixed up, you guys. Don't hold that against me. But that is a matching service, and you can also get connected to them through Southside Development Center. Okay, you also want to talk to your lender. Again, you're kind of married to your lender, right? So you want to work with someone that knows about these grant opportunities. Some of the lenders have internal grant opportunities as well. Okay, so make sure you're asking those questions because they're going to help you navigate that as well. Okay, and then the process can take 45 to 60 days. And let me make mention of something else. So if you're in a current lease with a landlord, apartment community, whoever or whomever, I should say, you may be in a lease with, I want you to think about that because the process takes as long as it takes. The reason for that is that there is a lot of coordination, specifically if you're getting some type of down payment assistance, which we encourage you to do. That takes time to process. So you have to think about all of the other organizations that are playing a role in supporting you through this process. And that 45 to 60 day window is standard. Have we done it less than that? Yes, but rarely. It's usually in that time frame. So if you're interested and your lease is about to end, I'm telling you now, the time is what it takes, okay? So be aware of that and move accordingly. That makes sense. Next slide, please. Okay, so again, we wanted to leave you with some of the resources that we started with. Check those out, and primarily with the Catholic Charities, the number on your left. Again, if you just want someone to sit down with you to look at your budget and look at ways in which you may be able to save, excuse me, or someone to tell you something like your debt to income ratio, right? Again, another acronym, DTI, that's going to play a role in if you are accepted to get a loan or not from a lender. And it'll make a difference in how much or how home some of the other down payment assistance programs work with you. You definitely want to see if there are ways for you to decrease your debt to income ratio, which will make you more of a prime candidate for a loan. So I will answer some of the questions. And if you have questions, put it in the chat or come off mute. Elizabeth, if you can go to the next slide, that way our contact information is there.
I'm
So
also going to
Candace-
quickly, sorry, 1 second, guys. I'm going to launch a quiz that's just going to be
Thank you.
about the information we've gone over here today. It's not mandatory. It's not part of your application. Don't worry about it if it doesn't work or you can't figure it out. It's just to know how good we did. So feel free to fill out this quiz while we talk about some questions.
Okay, and Candace, I have a question that may be for the good of the group. I got a direct question regarding the application and how long it will remain on file.
Sure.
So
Okay.
So if you could bring clarification to that, and also another message about the credit score requirements. So if either you or one of the lenders can answer that to make sure we're giving our.
Can you repeat that first question again? I'm sorry.
So the first question is, how long will the application remain on file?
Okay, let me answer that really quickly.
I'm sorry, remain active.
Oh.
I'm reading my response. So once approved, if I'm not interested in the properties available at the time, how long is the application active?
Okay, so your application is active, well, twofold. You stay in the applicant pool as long as you want to remain in the applicant pool. Keep in mind that pre-qual letter that you get from your lender only lasts 90 days typically. So if, let's say you apply today, you send in everything, you talk to your lender, you send us your pre-qualification letter, your letter will expire in 3 months. Well, we don't kick you out of the applicant pool. That just means that when you're interested, you would go to your lender and update that, right? Ask for an updated letter. And we as well would need to update your information, right? So, and that's to verify that you're still not just eligible for the program, but that your income has not shifted or changed that now makes you ineligible for the program. So you remain in the applicant pool, but you will update your information. You do not have to update your information every 90 days, okay? What that will look like is, let's say, something comes up in 90 days and you're not interested in it, right? But another 90 days after that you are, then you would update at that time, if that makes sense. So you don't have to keep updating every 3 months. You would update once you see something that you're interested in. And what was the other question?
Second question, one of our lenders could clarify the credit score requirements.
Well, before they answer, and I hope they're still on the line, each lender has a different requirement, right?
Mhm.
So in terms of what that actual credit score is, they all are going to require something different. Some are as low as 620, some are 640, but that depends, right? The other piece of that is most lenders are going to look at your overall. So not just the credit score, but they're using different aspects of your credit history to come up with a full picture of your credit worthiness. I hate that terminology, but to see if they're going to offer you a loan or a product. And if Mary or Jordan would like to chime in with that response about credit score.
This is Mary. The Virginia Housing Program sets their own minimum credit score requirement through Virginia Housing, even though we as lenders may be using their program. Their minimum credit score requirement for a conventional loan, which is what we do for all of the Maggie Walker properties through Virginia Housing, is 640. But we as lenders always can work with you as a buyer to make some recommendations on, what you can do to get your score up to 640 if it's not there yet. Or as earlier mentioned in the session, Commonwealth Catholic Charity is a great resource for that as well.
Thanks, Candace and Mary.
Do you still need a down payment? So there is down payment assistance as we discussed. There is a breakdown with that. Depending on how much assistance you get, you will need some cash to close, but I couldn't tell you need $5,000, you need $300. It would really be contingent upon you working with your lender and where that falls. So any additional questions? Will these slides be shared with us? Actually, Genlicia, and I hope I pronounced your name correctly, this is live streaming, the entire video will be on our YouTube channel. So you can go back and look at that at any time.
We'll also share a PDF of the slides with you after the meeting.
Thank you, Flora.
It's Jean Lachey.
Jean Lachey, thank you for correcting me. Any other questions? Okay, Flora, you want to talk about you're welcome, thank you.
Yeah. So in terms of who's going to submit an application soon, we got a few people who said yes right away. That's exciting. We look forward to hearing from you all. Otherwise, please take your time. Feel free to ask us any other questions that you want by email, as you can see our emails on the page here. First quiz question, true or false, MWCLT homes are fully inheritable. They can be passed down to your heirs regardless of income as long as they'll use the property as their primary residence. That was true, and everyone got that right, so good job. Next question, what equity will you get back when you sell your MWCLT home? Your down payment, the loan principal you paid off through monthly mortgage payments, your home's increase in value, or all of the above? The correct answer is all of the above. So the down payment is the cash you bring to the home when you close. The loan principal you've paid off through your monthly mortgage payments, that's, goes up steadily over time using that amortization schedule we talked about. Your home's increase in value is your home's increase in value. It's how much your home is worth when you decide to sell versus when you bought it. And all of those things together are the equity that you get out of your home when you sell it. And then the last question, how will your MWCLT home increase in value? Based on the market rate appraisal, based on their increase in the Richmond area median income, or it will not increase in value? And the correct answer there was based on the increase in the Richmond area median income. So the market rate appraisal is the thing that will fluctuate wildly. If there's like a housing market crash, God forbid, it could go way down. If there's another insane spike, it could go way up. Either way, it could just cause problems for everyone around it. But instead, we tie the value of the home to the increase in the Richmond area median income, which is basically the average amount of money that people in Richmond are making, which is increasing at a much steadier, albeit still high rate. So it allows us to keep the home affordable over time. So yeah, thanks all for taking the quiz.
Well, again, we want to thank each of you for coming out tonight. Again, this will be on our website, not on our website, excuse me, on our YouTube channel. And as Flora mentioned, the slides will be sent out to you. Any last and final questions? We would love to give you guys your time back if not. Thank you, Hope.
There was a question about refinancing, in case we wanted to say that one out loud.
Yes, you will be able to refinance. You do have to notify your lender, and you will need to notify MWCLT, but that is something that is permitted.
I think there's, oh, thank you. Thank you so much. All right, seeing no other questions, thank you all so much for joining. And again, our email addresses are there. If there's something personal in nature you want to discuss or you have a question about that's a little bit private, please feel free to reach out to either one of us. We'll be more than happy to help you. Okay, have a good night.